Fine. So we have created a simple program, a separate project for strings, where we have created a program and main method where actually we have seen string is. So today we'll see more methods or internal things what we can actually do with multiple strings and all, right? So let me create one more string, like let me call this B as hello, right? Now first let's see concatenation of two strings. Concatenation of two strings is nothing but joining two strings and make it as a one single string object, right? So let's take string C is equal to, let me call, for concatenating two strings we can use plus symbol, like let's say I want to concatenate S plus B. Now S and B are nothing but the variables which we have. They are not strings, rather I'm actually using variable S, now whose value is hi, and I'm using variable B whose value is hello. What happens is here, whenever you do S plus B, right, and now these two strings will be concatenated and will be assigned to C. Right? Now again what happens whenever these two strings get concatenated, now a separate memory will be created for hi, hello in a heap memory, and then that memory will be assigned back to C. That's what happens. Fine. Now when I print C here, let me run this program, right, you can see how both will be concatenated as one string, right? So in here itself, if you want to make a space, then you can concatenate any number of strings in one stretch, right? So here I can say I can directly connect these type of strings. I have a variable already defined, I'm concatenating them, and I'm actually making a space in between S and B, right? And after concatenating S and B with space, I'm also trying to concatenate some other string, right? You can see everything will be in position. Right? So this is your concatenating two strings. Also you have something called string.concat, right? So you can concatenate to multiple strings if you want, right? Or else you have something called s.concat, which means if you want to concatenate S with some other, right, you can actually concatenate it. But you have internal methods to actually use or concatenate strings, right? Or you can actually concatenate this. Now, there is one important thing which you should understand. While concatenating strings, let's take an example of, let's say I'm doing 2 plus 3 plus something called again S, which is my string, and then I'm doing something called 34 plus 26. So what is this concatenation? Now I said you can use plus to concatenate strings, but you can see here I'm actually concatenating the string, but I also have numbers, right? What will be the output of this concatenation type? Right, you can see 2 plus 3 plus I have a string here which is high, and then you have plus 34 and plus 56, or let me take the simple ones, plus 9 and let me take 1. Right, simple this. Right. Now when I run this, see the output, you can see it has 5 hi 9 1. What does it mean is, before it starts concatenating string, it will take all the numbers and will sum up. Once you start with string, and after that you actually add any number of or do plus for any number of numbers, right, they will be considered as a string. They will not be taken as a separate number and add up as such, but they will be taken as a separate string itself. So which means this 2, 3 will be added, which will give you a 5, and you have S, which is hi, and then you have 9 and 1 concatenated to that. Now this is what happens. Now this is important to actually keep in mind whenever you are actually concatenating. So this is something which may get your output disturbed. You may think that you are actually appending 2, 3, S 9 and so on, right? But that is not right. See what happens if I make this string. Let's say I'm actually making this as a string, right? 2 is a string, right? Then you can see, yes, uh, the same logic applies even here, right? So whenever it starts from a string, after that, whatever you concatenate, it can be a number, it can be a decimal or anything, will be considered as a string and then it will be added up. That's what happens. Right? So this is something which is your concatenation of strings, and we have to keep in mind that while concatenating, be sure you're doing the right thing. Right? Good. Now let's move to the next one. In strings, you have something called string array, right? You can create a string array. Let's say Yara, right? Now we have seen integer array. We have seen so many other like decimals and all that arrays, different arrays. Now you can also have a string array. So in this string array, if you want to assign the values directly, if you remember, so here I can assign arrays directly as this. Now if you remember our arrays class, right, we we have already gone through this. Like we have to declare an array, right, construct an array and then initialize. There are 3 rules which we have to follow for arrays, right? Where you can see I've declared an array which is string array ARR, right? Construction and initialization part you can actually do directly in this way. So use flower bracket and give some strings. Let's say I'm going to give some strings. Apple. Let's say here you have .NET. You have something called Java, right? SQL. Right? I just took some random words so that I can use them. Now this is a legal way of declaring an array, right? Now this flower bracket entities, whatever we have defined, all the words will actually initialize my string array ARR, and it will actually dynamically create the size. Now you can see there are 1, 2, 3, 4 items, right? Then the length of your ARR will be 4, right? If you want, you can actually check that out. Let me print that console right line of let's say length of ARR. You can say ARR length. It will give you the length of this. Now, so you may get a situation that you have an array and you have to actually append them or concatenate everything, right, as a one single string. So normally what is the intention we do? Right? We normally do in this way. For a string you can actually use your for each, right? If you remember, I can have for each loop here, right, where I'll be taking each string from my array ARR, right? And what I can do, I can declare a string, or maybe I'll take everything in C. C is my variable already declared, right? I'll take C, let me just make C empty first before taking all the strings. I can say C plus is equal to your item. Now if you remember, right, this is an assignment operator. When you say C plus is equal to, what does it mean? C. This is same as C is equal to C plus item. Both are same. I mean C plus item. Right? C plus is equal to item or C plus is equal to, both are same. Now what I'm doing, I'm actually concatenating all the words into one string. Now if I run this, you can see, right, everything got concatenated, Apple.NET Java and so on. And you can see the length of array is 4. Now here, if you want to format, yes, you can also format. Let's say after each item you added up, let's say I want a one single space, right? You can do that. Now you can see it will be formatted. Now this is something where what I've done, I'm actually writing so many statements to do, create a single string out of my arrays. Now think about if I have many words, then obviously it's going to take some time, right? Obviously execution process may take some time. But for that reason, we have a straightforward method in string called, we have a string dot join, right? and it is asking for what separator you want. Separator is nothing but, now you can see these are the words, right? Now you can't concatenate everything as without space or something, right? Let's give some delimiter or a separator as a space, and then I am giving my ARR. ARR is nothing but my collection, right? Now this will join everything and it will return into a single string, which I am actually caching at C here. Now if I run this, now you can see in a single statement I am doing everything. Whatever I did using for loop and doing some concatenation and then concatenating other space and all, right? I'm just writing in one single short line, which is nothing but return. Right? So this will actually join your all the words you have. Right? Now C is something which is appended words from an collection. Same way, you may get a situation where, let me take one example of st. String st is equal to let's say this is, let's say, my word. I'm just taking an example where you can see here that if I have to break this string into a string array or different words, what I can do. We have seen something where words are joined, but even the busy words away, where I have my words and I want to break it. I have my single statement or a string and I want to break it by a word by word. What I can do. Now, even in that case, we have a feature. We have a feature called split. ST, I'm taking ST because I want to split my string, which is this. And for this split, if you can see, it needs a separator. Right? If you remember, this was a separator which we gave, right? Same way, this is a separator, and using this separator, what I will do, I will break the words. Now let me give separator as this. Now always it looks for character array, so that's the reason why you can actually make your string directly to character array, so that it will take these characters and then separate. Now obviously we have to hold this split. Whatever it returns, we have to hold in some array, right? Let me take it as string. Let me call it as ARR1, right? So this ARR1 is nothing but after splitting up your string into different words, it will give. Now let's loop on and see how it is. For each string in ARR1, right? Let's print that console.write line after right. Now you can see here that, right, you have this is my word, right? Now each and every word actually became a separate. Now here you will wonder that if I have, let's say, some more spaces in here, then what happens? Right? It will take each space and split. That is what it's going to do. See here, you will get some blanks here, right? Because we actually added 3 spaces, right? You can see 1, 2 and 3. You'll get 3 different words in which 2 words are null. I mean, there is no data in it. But it will take a true space and it will split. It will split this into 2. It will again take this and it will again take this, which means still will get 3 different words. We got 3, which is 1, 2 and 3, but 2 and 3 are blanks. So this is how the split happens. Fine. Now let's go to the next one, which is let me take string some RE is equal to some I have string B is equal to, let me take okay. Now let's see how to compare two strings. Right? You can compare 2 strings. So RE dot, you have something called compare to, right? You can give object, let me say right? When you compare two strings, right, it will actually give you an output of int. Let me call it as int result. Now when you will compare, right, you can see on a return type you can see int, right? Now, so here you can see that whenever it returns int, if the data is like RE, right, and DE are same, then it will return you 0, right? And if it is lesser, which means if there is any difference, it will give you other than 0, which can be either a positive value or a negative value based on what case you are using. So let's print this result and see what happens here. Initially you can see you got a 0, right? Now let me make this a small h, which means, see here, word is same, but case case of this hello and this are different, which means compare to will take the real case and will compare. Now you can see it's 1, which means there is a difference, right? These two strings are not the same. That is your compare to. Same way, you have something called, let me print console.writeLine. You have something called 2 upper and 2 lower. Now 2 upper and 2 lower are nothing but, I'm converting this hello, let's say HEL, let me call it as capital L again. Right? Now 2 upper and 2 lower, 2 upper will actually make all the characters of your word into uppercase, right? Apart from your special characters and numbers, if they are alphabets, they'll actually make it uppercase, and 2 lower will actually make it as a lowercase. And I can see here, you have an uppercase HELLO and you have a lowercase. These are upper and lower. Now let's say if you have some space, right? Let's say we have some space here, right? And what I'm doing here is, let's say I'm going to take one more string, some f is equal to RE plus D. Now I'm doing RE plus D. What happens? It will take the complete true value of RE and it will take the true value of D and it will contract it, right? Let me run this. We have to print that f. Let me just print that f here. Let me comment it out so that you don't get any other things. Now you can see you have your hello, so many spaces and hello, because we are actually contracting. Now let's trim this RE. Now trim is nothing but you are removing the spaces from trailing and leading from your word. Now even if you have spaces here or here, right? When I do re.trim, now your trim will actually make will actually remove all of it. And you can also trim from end or start. Trim end will take the end spaces, and trim start will take the start spaces. And if there is anything in between spaces, right, then it will not trim. It will trim only if there are extra spaces after the completion of last step. Right? Why? Because if there is any word and then trim, what does it mean? It means there is some significance if you use a space in between two different words. Right? That's the reason why trim will not work for the spaces which are in between words. Right? Now let's run this. You can see, right, the space will stay as is, and your hello and hello will be there, and it will actually remove all the spaces. That is a trim. So this is about trimming first, and you have more things like let's say you want to check, or let's say you want to use this word again, right? Let me use this again here. Let's say you want to change something or change some character. Let's say you have IS, right? S is nothing but your single character which you want to change into some other characters. So in that case we have something called replace. Let's say I'm going to replace old character S, right? with new character something. Let's say I'm going to change with dollar. Right? Now again, whatever you're doing operation on a string, right? It will return a new string again. Now if I just do st.replace, let me just do this. If I just do st.replace and let me print st, what does it mean? It should replace my dollar. That's what we think normally, right? When I run this, you can see this is my word. Nothing will happen. Why? If you remember, a string is an immutable word. What it will do? It will create a new string out of this complete operation. That's the reason why you have to assign it back to st, so that whatever operation you are doing, a new word is being assigned to st again. Now if you run this, now you can see in place of s you will get a right. So this is important. That is your replace. Also you can also replace a word if you want. Now st is equal to, you have st dot replace of, let's say you want to change my, right, let's say you want to change it to r. Right here I'm actually trying to replace a complete word. Now if I run this, you can see the dollar is changed and also this is our word, right? Both the word and these things are changed. Fine. Same way, you have st is equal to, if you want to get some string out of it, which is a part of string, we have something called substring. You have something called substring of. Now here you have two options. Either you can select start index. Now what is this index? Now whenever you have a string, right, if you remember in our previous class we had a discussion that your string internally will be saved as a character by character. Your t will be in, the first character will be in 0th position, first, second, third, and so on. Right? So that's the reason why it is asking substring of any index. Let's say here you can see it is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Let's say I'm giving substring of 5. Let's see what happens. Now I'm going to take substring from 5. So which means from 5 whatever string it is, it will return me to my string. Now you can see it will return is R1. That is our substring. Same way we have one more parameter, overridden parameter you have, which is from where to start and what is the length. Let's say I want from 5 and the length should be 2, which means from 5 starting I want till the length becomes 2. Now you can see you will get only I in this case. That is your substring which you have. And you have C, split and everything. Yes. We have one more thing while checking. This is something which you will be using most often. Maybe sometimes you have to check whether your string is empty or not, or null or not, because you can always have something called null to a string, which means it contains nothing, or sometimes space, or space in the sense empty string. So while doing some operation, right, you may want to check whether your string is, or your string contains some data or not. So for that we have something called string dot is null or empty. This is a very important internal method of string which we will be using more often in our real time to check. Now this will give whether it is empty or not. Now let me just type console st is, let's say, empty. Right, else let's say I'm saying that it contains something like this, right? So here initially I have made it space, right? Let's run this. You can see the st is empty. Let's run, let me make it null. Now how can I make a string null? If you remember, string is an object, right? And any object can take null. Null is nothing but it contains nothing. Now again you can see string is empty. Now let me give a space here. does it mean? If I run this, now you can see it contains a value stress, which means even a character space is important. Which means your space is nothing but you have something in your string. That's why it says ST contains one. So that is your is null or and then you have something called index of. I mean, you may have to get index of your character or index of your word sometimes, right? Let me just take this ST again here, and you have something called index of. See, you have many options in here. You can actually get it a character value or so. Let's give character first. Let me give for S. I want to get the index of this. Let me save it in int sub ind, and let's bring this again. See here, you have many S, right? Now which index you will get? So while making use of ST and index of, it will actually get the first possible S. Whenever it finds the first possible character, it will get the index of that character, which means you have 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and obviously it will get the index of first character, which is 3. Right? Now, if you want to get index of S, which is after 3, then again obviously you have more values. You can see you can give start index. Let's say I'm going to give start index as 4, which means from 4th index search S and give me the value. So let's run this. You can see it will now get the S, right, which is after 4. Now let's say you have something called world, some S again here. Now how to get it? Now you don't have to go again and again for index of and after some index. You have something called st dot last index of. Right? Now this will give you a last index. Okay. Yes. Right? It will give you last index, which is 16, which is at the last. It will come from last, and whatever S it finds, it will get that. Right? So this is your index of. An index of can also be a word, like, let me just comment this one for some time. Let me say I'm going to give index of as my string, which is a string. Right? So let's run this. Now you can see it will give you it will give you an index of mine as 8. Now how it is coming 8? Let me show you. It is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Which means again it will take each and every character, and wherever it starts, it gives that index for the word it chooses. That is again an index of. So this is our index of which we have for the string. Now these are different string operations which we normally do, right? While performing some other string, the different things. But every time you are doing some operation and assigning, right, it creates a new string, right? It creates a new. It will first check whether that particular string is already there in heap or not. If not, it will create a new space in heap, and then it will assign it to your new string. That's what happens. Fine. So this is something about strings which we have and how it actually gets assigned. Right? Now we have seen something which is a immutable one, right? Let's see, and normally you have understood till now that immutable is possible, right? Because if you are doing so many operations, then obviously it's going to fit our heap memory a lot, right? So for that reason, we have two different ways how you can actually make use of string which is mutable. First way is your string creating an object of string. Now when I say creating an object of string, right? Okay, so so here previously we have seen something which let me take a pointer here, right? If you assign a string, right, it will create a separate memory in your heap, and it will create, right? But we have something called creating a string object, right? As we know, the string is an object type and also a class, right? And we know that for a class we can create an object, right? So whenever you create an object of string, right, then which means a separate memory will be allocated to that object. Now to that object, whenever you assign any value or change any value, it will create a single standard memory in a heap, and the value in it will be changing. That is what it will have, right? So let me show you that. So how can we create a object of string? So let's create a new class here. Class, and let's say, let me call it as so here, let me remove this so that I can create one more main here. Fine, I have this, so I can create a string like, let me call it as obj is equal to name. Now this is how I can create an object of class, right? Where it says, obviously, whenever I'm creating something, some object, right, it needs at least character to be defined. Let's say initially I'm defining. It means that the initial value of obj will become your character, right? Which you can always see that accepts only character. That's fine, right? Now this is how you can actually initialize your object with some characters or some string. Now if you print this, let me print this first. Console.writeLine of obj. Now all the operations which we have seen for string, right, everything is same for even this string object. Nothing new. So let me read a key. Run this program. You can see hi, right? Because it is a simple string which returns a string, right? And it is returning hi here, right? So same way you can have, let's say I'm gonna append something. Let's say this is equal to, let's say I'm doing some hello. What does it mean? I'm actually concatenating string. Now from hereby, whatever operation you can do everything whatever you have done here. Now when I run this program, you can see the append happens, right? We can have some spaces here, append it, it will append, right? You can get the length of that. Let's say I'm going to get the length, right, which will give you length of all characters I have, 9, right? And you can replace, you can have split, right? Let me just say dot split, right, of, let's say I'm going to split it using space dot 2 character array of 0. See, you can actually have, you can actually grow now. I mean, once you understand the concept, right, it will actually grow, it can grow like this. Now why I've done this, you can see, let me just explain you. I did obj.split, and the split I'm doing with space. Now what it will return? It will return me a string array. And in string array, how can I get the first value? Using your square bracket 0, which I have done in one shot. Right? Let me run this and show you what you can see. I'll get high. Why? Because when I split this with space, right, I have space between hi and hello, so many spaces, but I'm trying to get a first value, which is nothing but a 0, the first value, and I got it. Right? So everything will be same when you are actually talking about a string object, but the main difference is that here the object string is not immutable. It is mutable, which means it will create a separate memory space, and whatever we do operations will be, whatever a string we change, right, so those things will be saved in the same memory location, right? So that's what it happens. And that is your string object. Now in the same way, right, we have one more very important class under strings called string builder, right? Now, what is a string builder? So normally, right, in real time, we may be, playing with strings a lot, right? Like multiple lines of strings and very huge strings and all, right? Now, what happens is once we create a string, right, it cannot be changed basically, right? If you're using a string object or a normal string, it cannot be changed, right? It cannot be changed since you can't add more. You can add more, but it'll actually change its face value. But string builder is something you can actually change any number of times. You can append, you can perform so many internal operations in string builder, so that it will actually yield you more performance than compared to a string and string array. Right. So that is a advantage of string builder. Right. For complex string operations, it's always better to use string builder. And again, string builder is same. The operations which you can perform on strings, you can also perform in string builder too. Right. So let me take a string builder here. Let me take it after this maybe. And your string builder, you have to create an object of string builder. Until unless you create, you may not be able to use. Let me call it as SD is equal to new string builder. Now you can see, if you want, you can actually provide whatever value you want to provide for the string. Now let's see how to assign a string builder. Right? Your string builder SB. Now, if you want to assign, you have different, things given: append or append line or append some format. Let's say I'm doing something called append. Right. So let me just say again, which means it will append this. If I append something again, let's say something here, right? And let me print this. So how can I print this? I can print it in this way. So what I can do, I can take console.writeLine, or I can't actually, this is a string builder is an object I'm creating, right? So you have to convert it to two strings so that whatever string we created in string builder will be printed. Let me run this and show you what happens. So you can see we have hi and print. Now whenever you use a method called append, right, it will continuously append your characters whatever you're providing, right, without a new line. And if you want to save every string you are providing in a new line, then you have something called append line. Use append line here and run this, right, and it will append everything in a separate line. Right. So that is what it happens here. Right. Now, same way, if you want to loop on, yes, you can actually use loops in this. You can have append line, you can replace things if you want, right? No, you can actually perform directly string builder.replace, you can see, right? What it will do, it will actually check every, character. Let's say I'm gonna change this to something like again dollar, right? Let me put some S character here and S character here, right? In two different lines, and you can see it will take all the lines, right? Whatever I'm doing, right, it will be applied for all lines in my string builder, right? So and for string builder, its main advantage is that it is very, it yields you a lot of performance than compared to the string, because this works in a dedicated memory as such. And it is mainly used for huge string operations, right? So this is what we have. You can also, if you want to remove, you can remove something. Let's say you have string builder, dot, everything, whatever you can actually do, right? You have start index. Let's say I want to start from 2 to length 2, right? Then again it will take from the lines, right? It will take from 2, right? And it will actually remove to That's what happens. Fine. So this is about a string builder which you have, and you can do everything whatever you have in strings, but the main working model is that it's always better to use string builder whenever you are actually working with a huge string operations, and it's always better if you are using a small, just a transformation string operations, and then you can actually go for either a string object or a string. So this is about strings which we have in C Sharp. So any questions in here in strings? So let's go to the next one. Next small topic again before we actually start with the access modifiers and all, right? Let's see the next one, which is enums, or we normally call enumerations. Right? So what is enumeration? So basically enumeration is a strongly typed constant, right? Which we can use as a user-defined data type. So we normally create our data types, right, which are predefined. Let's say int, float, they are predefined classes of data types, and we normally create or use those data types to create our own variables and use them. But here enum provides something where you can create your own user-defined constants and you can actually use them. And they are strongly typed, which means they cannot be, one value cannot be assigned to other values. They are uniquely defined and they are like uniquely used. Okay? So let me show you that how to use enumerations. So let me create a new class in this itself. So here, basically the syntax of enumeration is, you can say enum, right? Let me take enum type as something, days, let's say. This is the basic syntax of your enumeration or enum, where you can declare your constants, and each and every constant will be assigned with one, internally it will assign with an integer. Now here, let's say I can take Sunday, your month, right? Your Tuesday, your, let's say, Wednesday. Right? So these are different values which I have assigned to my enumeration. Right? What is happening here? Now this is my enum, right? And days. Now this is my user defined. Now this is like an int, right? Or a float which are predefined, but here I have defined my own variable called days. Now here let me create a name. String array. Okay. Fine. So here let's see how we can actually use it. So these are constants, right? Now why do we need constants? Because let's say, take an example of our switch case itself. You remember, let me remove this static void here so that we won't get any issue. Right? Now normally in switch cases, right, we normally provide a key where using that key we normally have different operations being done. So here let me create a separate method like static void, let's say get data something, and here what I can do, I can actually use my enum as a data type. You can see I can use days, which is my data type, and let's say I'm making it as some variable e. Now where my days is like a variable, which is like I can also define something called string, or I'm going to take some float, accept some float f. Right. Now this days is something which I have defined. This is not a predefined. I can give any variable to this. Let's say I'm doing something called some tg, right? Which means this enum will become tg. tg will become a type of my enum, right? Which is days here. Right? So internally, what I can do, I can use this enums in different way. Now here, let's say I'm gonna take switch of. Let's say I'm taking E. E is nothing but my enum days. Now here, whenever I am creating case, right, now you can see it will give me direct options. Now this will always make sure that I'm using a right value for to do some operation in a right way. Let's say I'm going to take some Monday here, right, and I'm going to print something, right, and when I go ahead and do right, see what happens. Again it will give me all the cases. So this is something which will be used across console.writeline, right, and after each case you have a break. Each case you have a break. Okay, close here, and then let's say you have a default. Console.writeline from. Now this is our simple way how we have used. Now now the main thing what we have done is here, if there is a value for MON, right, it will always say MON. Why? Because we have defined days and there is a predefined value which will be assigned whenever we define a constant over here, which are strongly typed constants. Now whenever I call, let me take only a single argument here. Whenever I call get data, right, you can see it will automatically give me which one to select, even from here. Wherever you use, it will actually give more feasible to use. Now you can see this is how I can do. Now here, maybe in your calculator program you can use enums, right? You can create one single program and you can use enums like add, multiply, subtract and divide, and you can send that and you can have a multiple cases of add and all, and you can do some operation with the two numbers and then send. A very simple program. It will actually make your life easy. When I run this, you can see, oops, let me print, let me do console.read. Oh, sorry, I'm going out of this. So let me make it here, console.read, so that it will stay for some time until we enter the key. Now you can see now. Like same way, if you want to change it to, let's say, Thursday, which is not matching, it will give you no match found. Right? So this is about the enumerations which we have, right? Enumerations, enums, which we can use across, whenever you feel that yes, I have an enum, and you can create a global class with a global methods like for any of your program, and you can actually use that, or you can actually make user to reuse your code based on the options you are providing to him. Okay. So this is something about enumeration which we have. Okay. Now let's go to the main one which we were looking for, is access modifiers. Now this is very important to understand, and this is common across complete .NET. These access modifiers are, even if we are using C#.NET or creation of libraries or creation of Windows application or application, doesn't matter. This access modifiers, whatever we are going to see now, is something which is common across all the complete .NET as such. Okay. Now on top we have 4 different type of access modifiers. Now even before access modifiers, what is access modifier? Now access modifier is something which creates like a visibility to your class, or visibility to your members of your class, right? And like their variables and their methods. That is something which is called as a access modifier. Now we have already seen in our previous class, right? Whenever you create any method which is a public, right, we used to access. Now what does it mean? You are making some method or a variable, right, or you are actually assigning a visibility to your variable or a method, right? So if you take those, we have four main access modifiers in .NET. The first one is public, second one we have is private, and you have protected, and then you have something called internal, right? Now, these are the four different modifiers which we have. Now these modifiers, four across, are mainly applied for the members of your class. And when I say members of your class, which means the variables or methods. But for class, only two access modifiers get applied. Either it can be a public, right, or internal. It should not be either protected or private. Private, definitely a class will never be a private, because if you define any class private, right, which means you are restricting your class to use from outside world. What does it mean? It means that your class is useless, right? Because you are creating class. I mean it is not the class which I am talking, which is a trigger class. Obviously, it is a class where you have written some variables and methods, and you are making it private. And obviously, no one can use it, right? So that's the reason why your class can be either public, where whenever you say public, it can be used anywhere, or you can class can be your internal, which can be used at least in your internal view function. Right? And when it comes to your variables, it can be anything. It can be a public variable, private variable, right? You have a protected variable, or a internal variable, or you can also have one more in case of, so this is for class, right? But in case of your variables or members, rather, not variables, members can be a method or a variable. You also have one more access modifier called protected internal. Right? So this is one more access modifier which we have for variables in .NET, right? So these are the complete list of access modifiers which we have, which we will see in our next class by example, like how to apply them, and when you apply each and every access modifiers, what will be the visibility which will be allocated for each and every member of the class. So okay, so you have taken your for loop, okay, infinite for loop indirectly main, okay, put out. Yeah, okay, and you're asking a desired operation, okay, 0 to exit, perfect. And if it is 0, then you're okay, breaking it out, perfect.
Exit.
Yeah. And then you're asking for choose, right? Okay, so here, right, whenever you say enter the value, one different thing which you can do. Can you go? Yeah. So instead of right line, make it as right here. I mean, whenever you are asking for something, right, just say right, so that you can actually write. Yeah, I mean, to make more intuitive, that's it, nothing else. Program is fine, I'm not saying no. And after A, you can actually have some space and colon. You can just do some colon there. Yeah, same for B. So that if you are actually asking for something in the same line, now you can run and see that it will be more easy for user to understand. Right? Now you can use some value, B some value, right? And it will give you something. Right? I mean, it is more like fine. You can use 0 to exit. Yeah. It's good actually. Yeah, enter. Okay, perfect. Now, why it was taking so much time to exit? Can you go to the top? Uh, you are actually making. Okay, you're reading line after the exit. Okay, until unless you read, it won't go. Okay, fine, sure. I understood. Can you go down? Okay, after this exit, you are actually waiting to read something, right? And once you read, then you're breaking. Okay, that's fine. Okay, this is good. This is good actually.